Hello friends. Today we're going to talk about Montenegro and Georgia, specifically why they're often compared and why this comparison isn't entirely accurate. Many people believe that Georgia is a great alternative to Montenegro. They say both places have mountains, the sea and all that. So why overpay for Europe, right? Let's figure out if that's really the case. In my opinion, living in Georgia and living in Montenegro are two completely different things, as they say in Odessa. But to begin with, I really don't understand why, if you have a Russian passport, you would want to exchange it for the passport of another former Soviet country. Well, maybe only for one of the Baltic countries. There are some nuances there, but overall, it's not that bad. I honestly don't understand how Georgia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, or any other CIS country is better or worse than Russia. Why swap one thing for another of equal value? Now let's figure out how Montenegro is different from Georgia. First of all, not all seas are equally beneficial. For those who didn't know, Georgia is washed by the Black Sea, while Montenegro is on the Adriatic. To be honest, I'm not a fan of either one, but the Adriatic still comes out on top. And it's not just about the sea. Montenegro is Europe, while Georgia, although it aspires to European values, it's still unclear whether it will succeed or not. Montenegro is a democratic state, where presidents, deputies, and the government change from time to time. Looking at how Georgia's ruling party dealt with the previous president, I have serious doubts about the strength of democratic institutions in Georgia. Just take the law on foreign agents adopted in 2024, for example. Yes, that's right, Georgia has one too. Also, Montenegro plans to join the EU in the near future. It's hard to say whether Georgia has such prospects, but I'm sure that for the next 20 years, this won't even be up for discussion. In Montenegro, the standard of living, salaries and pensions are much higher, and most likely, the gap in living standards between these countries will only continue to grow. At the moment, obtaining a residence permit in Montenegro is guaranteed. And what about Georgia? From February 2022 to November 2023, the Ministry of Justice of Georgia received 15,506 applications for residence permits from Russian citizens. This was reported by the press service of the Ministry of Justice of Georgia. According to media reports, residence permits were granted to 9,021 Russians. For example, 530 people received work visas, 336 received visas based on property ownership, 378 received student visas, 455 for family reunification, and 168 for investments. Work visas were denied to 881 residence permit applicants, property-based visas to 302, student visas to 27, family reunification visas to 366, and investment visas to 43. So, for example, if we look at work visas, the rejection rate is over 50%. Residence permit rejections for property-based applications are almost 50%. I think that with such rejection statistics, the majority of Russians living in Georgia do not have a residence permit, but instead take advantage of the visa run option. In other words, what attracts them is not that the country is so great, but that you can live there for a while without having to get a residence permit. In other words, they are attracted solely by the opportunity to save money on a residence permit. Obviously, this kind of stay will not lead to permanent residency or citizenship, and you can't live like this forever. So, many people choose Georgia simply as a place for long-term, but still temporary, residence. Let's compare the conditions for obtaining a residence permit in Montenegro and in Georgia. Regarding real estate, in Montenegro, you can get a residence permit for purchasing real estate of any value, while in Georgia, it's only possible if you buy property worth at least $100,000. Moreover, Georgia can still deny you a residence permit. So, if you buy an apartment in Georgia hoping to get a residence permit, it's a 50-50 chance whether you'll actually get it or not. Regarding employment, overall, the conditions for obtaining a residence permit are similar, but in Montenegro, this type of residence permit is guaranteed, whereas in Georgia, there is a huge number of refusals. In addition, salaries in Montenegro are significantly higher than in Georgia. That's why in Georgia, residence permits are often sought by sole proprietors, but they still face more than a 50% chance of being denied. So where did all those people go who used to say how low the taxes are in Georgia and how great it is to open a sole proprietorship there? For study, the grounds for obtaining a residence permit are very similar, but in Montenegro the permit is guaranteed, while in Georgia it may not be granted. Investment. In Georgia, you can obtain a residence permit if you invest more than $300,000 in the economy. In Montenegro, all you need to do is open a company with a capital of just €1. Moreover, in Montenegro, a residence permit is issued to everyone, while in Georgia you can be refused. Residence permits in Montenegro are available for digital nomads or through yacht ownership. There are no such types of residence permits in Georgia. And what do you think? After everything I've listed, does anyone, in all honesty, really still believe that there's absolutely no difference at all between Georgia and Montenegro, and that if both countries have mountains and a sea, they're practically the same, even for a moment?